And I give the floor to Viktor Shadursky, the Dean of our Faculty of International Relations. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Natalia. Dear colleagues, on behalf of Faculty of International Relations, Belarusian State University, I'd like to express my gratitude to organizers for this excellent initiative to prepare this webinar, and in particularly, and their MOST project in general. The theme of the webinar is very humanistic. It's also very important on different angles, from different angles. It touches the questions of education, research, economy, culture, and other very important sphere. Inclusive tourism is a part of the activity of our Faculty of International Relations. Our faculty, maybe you know, consists of 6 specialties. One of the most important is the specialty management in the sphere of international tourism. More than 2,000 students graduated from this specialty. This is very serious and real contribution of our faculty, of our colleagues, researchers into the development of tourism in Belarus. I also would like to underline that the principle of inclusion is obvious dimension in the education of all our specialties: international relations, international law, international economy, international tourism, and other our specialties. Certainly, we have done a lot in that direction, and particularly I would like to thank my colleague Natalia Borisenko-Klipach, having chosen this topic, inclusive tourism, as principal direction of her research. And I hope that students participate in this seminar also will join our seminar, will join research, and we will have success. Belarus needs successes, and also in the sphere of inclusion. Dear colleagues, dear students, I wish you good discussion, good, interesting, fruitful discussion, and I hope that our result of our discussion, the result of webinar will be integrated to their real practice. And I hope also to see you in Minsk offline. Certainly online is good opportunity for us to have very quickly meetings, but we need communication, human communication. Okay, thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you, Viktor. It's really great that you opened our webinar. And also we have Anatoly Byfert, who is representing MOST program today, which is supporting our webinar. So I give the floor to you, Anatoly. Please give us the few starting words to inspire.
Thank you very much, dear guests, dear friends, dear colleagues. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the organizers and all the participants for inviting us to greet you, to welcome you for this webinar. Maybe a couple of boring words about ourselves. MOST project, or MOST program, it's a EU-funded program that aims at establishing professional contacts between citizens from Belarus and their counterpartners from the EU member states. MOST, it's not only the word, the meaning from this, the meaning of MOST maybe understood as a bridge. So you see the bridge there, and the bridge behind me, it's not from America, it's from Portugal. So we are using bridge from Europe. Many of us today, especially in the times of digital development, sometimes and cooperation between the institutions and organizations forget the very simple facts that behind every institution, behind every organization, or behind every association or university, these are the living people. So these are we that are doing the job, producing products, sharing knowledge and results in form of scientific articles, publications, and researchers. So for us, we are happy that you built this bridge. Unfortunately, in maybe, I'd say it carefully, in unusual times, the aim of MOST is building bridges live, so live contacts. But we're happy to be part of this story. I wish you very fruitful contacts, fruitful cooperation and discussion and results. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your starting words. It's also important, yes, for sure. If we had a chance for an offline visit, it would be much more maybe like interesting for visitors to see a little bit of Belarus as well for our colleagues. But I think it's not the last option to visit our country after this all these stresses and shocks. I think world will be back again to normal life, and we will have a chance to exchange business visits in reality. But still it's much better that we have this online option than nothing. So today we are sharing our experiences, and we have really very important representatives from sphere of accessible tourism in Europe. And I would like to present Anna Grazia Laura, the president of ENAT, and Ivor Ambrose, the managing director of ENAT, with their experience and information about what ENAT is and how much they have done for accessible tourism development in Europe. So the floor is yours. I'm really very happy that you joined this webinar.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for everybody, and many thanks to the Belarusian State University for inviting us here in the framework of the MOST program. Now I will try to share my screen and hope to be successful. Let me see. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Ah, very good. Okay, so we will divide this presentation between myself and Ivor, and I will try to be very quick before giving the floor to him, because we have to say and tell you a lot of things within the 20 minutes that we've been assigned. So first of all, who we are. As a matter of fact, we were financed as a European project from the year 2006 to 2007. And the main topic and the main purpose of this project was mainstreaming disability issues, which is a very important one, because at that time, the European Commission was trying to make everyone understand that disability is not something separate from the rest of any kind of activity in the world, and particularly within tourism. After the time of the project development, we were founded as a non-profit association, and we are governed by an international board of directors. We have a multi-stakeholders network and more than 100 members all over the world in 30 and more countries. I'm afraid you hear my phone ringing, and I would not answer, hoping that they would be able to, let's say, leave me, let's say, alone, at least for 20 minutes. What we have among our members, we have public bodies, we have associations, we have NGOs, and we have tourist boards. You will also see in my presentation the flag of the European Commission, who is an observer to ENAT activities, and the UNWTO, with whom we have a long experience and long history of cooperation, and with whom we signed a protocol of understanding. What we do global networking, and we try to develop a members online community. We we try to promote business to business contacts and a strategic tourism development program. We support national tourism organizations, cities and destinations, and we try to promote good practices that we collect from all over the world. We have participated, and we still participate in EU-funded projects, and Emiliano De Ferrari, my colleague, and my seconder will talk about it after us. We promote and we develop educational and vocational training curriculum and e-learning because we feel that training is has a basic importance in starting any activity towards inclusiveness and full accessibility. We are involved in developing international standards, and we also have an accessible tourism directory called PANDU, who will, Ivo will talk a lot about it. We see a lot of nice figures, nice pictures here. Athens, Greek islands, Northern Ireland, New Orleans, Toronto, Chiang Mai in Thailand, Scotland. All these are maybe destinations for people with any kind of access needs. But what is really needed from any of these destinations is to have enough information at the beginning so that anyone can decide if the destination is suitable for his or her needs. We never talk about accessibility. What is accessibility? What does accessibility as a whole mean? It should be accessible according to each of us specific requirements, and this is why it's so important to provide information that anyone will be able to choose from what is the best destination according to his own desires and his own conditions. So our mission is to make European tourist destination products and services accessible to all travelers and to promote accessible tourism around the world. As you can see from these drawings that you use a lot in our presentation, tourists come in all shapes and sizes. And what is important from the point of view of the tourist sector is to let them in. You may have a temporary disability, you may have sensory disability, physical disability, learning disabilities. And what is important to understand that accessible tourism is not special and is part of every kind of offer. You may look for accommodation, you may decide to travel for adventure, culture, education, you just want city breaks, you are a participant in a conference, in a sport event, and so on. Any of these possibilities should be within the reach of every person, and in particularly of every person with a specific access requirement. So accessible is a universally designed tourism for all. We should be sure that all the environments, venues, and services are suitable for a wide range of customers, which include seniors, families with small children, people with disabilities, people with long-term health conditions, and many, many more. What is important is to assure equal opportunity to everyone to enjoy any tourist experience they would like to select. And accessibility means inclusion, means comfort, means safety and sustainability. Figures. According to the World Bank, there are 1 billion people in the world having a disability. which means 1 in 7 people worldwide. And this is a huge figure. And then Ivor will tell you more about statistics and figures that would describe the world of disability as a very, very good opportunity. We should not forget, however, that 70 to 8% of disabilities are not visible. Some disabilities are described by the icon of the wheelchair users, but some are not immediately perceivable. And then why is this important? Because this should be a basis of the training that everyone working in the tourist center, in the tourist sector should know. They should know how to behave with everybody. And then disability, let's say, they will describe, they will find out the disability when they are in a face-to-face position with their potential customer. And it is important to know how to behave in this sector. Is it a right or is it a business? Let's say the Tourists for All is both. And let me mention the United Nations Convention on the Right of People with Disabilities. It has been approved in 2006 by, let's say, all votes of the Assembly of the United Nations, and it aims to promote, protect, and ensure the full and equal enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedom by all persons with disabilities. In particular, Article 30 requires equal access to participation in cultural life, including leisure, tourism, and sport. The convention has been ratified by 177 states as for October 2018, and the optional protocol by 92 states. What does it mean? That once the convention has been ratified by any country, by any state, it becomes a law of the state. It is compulsory in the state, and the government has to promote all the activities that let's say, represent and make the people with disabilities able to participate. What we work with National Tourist Office, region, and cities, and you see here a number of names that would bring you from Cyprus to Spain and to Israel or to Izmir. And Portugal, of course, we'll talk later on. And we work, as I said, with the United Nations World Tourism Organization, and they prepared a brochure in 2016 and 2016 when the year was declared World Tourist Day in Bangkok. And they, let's say, in this brochure, they presented some very important best practices all around the world. And also accessibility is a tool for reaching some of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And we are working a lot with them, together with ILO and other partners, to be able to present some initiatives in this direction. UNWTO also prepared, with the support of ONCE Foundation, which is one of our founding members, and INAT itself, some recommendation on accessible tourism, which were adopted by their General Assembly in 2013. Why is this why are these recommendations important? Because UNWTO is speaking to all the member states that belong to them. And these recommendations are strongly suggested to be followed by everyone. They also prepare manual on accessible tourism for all, principles, tools, and good practices. And you can find all these in the website of INAT and of UNWTO to see what are the contents which are extremely important for the tourist sector. Since we started, we are participating in 16 European Union funded projects and tenders on vocational education and training, competitiveness and innovation, research and development, both for the Framework Program 7 and for Horizon 2020, and Europe Aid, where we cooperate with Lebanon in establishing a system of accessible tourism there. We also participate in global and European standard works, either for the ISO or for the CEN-CENELEC, and to, let's say, define tourism and related services, accessible tourism for all requirements, recommendations, and standard on accessibility of the built environment. I would like to mention this particular project that ended up in a, let's say, course for tourist guides, how to prepare and carry on guided visit for visitors with intellectual disabilities. And this course is now accredited by FEG, which is the Federation of European Guide Association, and INAT, of course. And so far, we have over 40 qualified tea guides in 7 countries. What happened? What's the point? Okay, fine. My final slide before giving on the floor to Ivor is that we are also participating in partnership with Blue Flag International to the revision of global accessibility criteria for blue flag beaches, marina, and tour boats. And this is very important because going to the beach and selecting, let's say, a summer or holiday on the beach is a high percentage of what passengers and visitors with specific access requirements ask for. And I would like now to give the floor to Ivo, who will come to you with more data on what and how is the segment represented all over the world. Thank you for the attention, and Ivo, please.
Yes, thank you, Anna Grazia. And if you could move the slides forward, then.
Oh, sorry, you are right. You didn't share. Okay, I'll do it again.
Yes,
and
then if you could go to the next slide, please.
Yeah,
we'll go straight on.
Okay, in a moment. So you tell me when I should move on, okay?
Yes, exactly. And thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to all of you. I'll go straight on with the presentation here. Really, we're talking about a situation where the tourism sector as a whole is still not very much aware about the demands of customers for accessible tourism.
I can't share my screen, Ivor. Sorry to interrupt you. Do you see it? No, huh?
No, maybe I should do it. I can share my screen. Just a moment. I've got the presentation here somewhere.
Right, because I don't know why, but now it's not working.
Okay, I have it. 1 second.
Okay, yes. Yeah, you should just put it in presentation mode.
Yes. Is it there now?
Yeah, I can see it. No, not yet. It's not on presentation mode yet, but you have to do it because I have no control on your screen.
That's funny. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it here. So it's from it's over here. 1 second, please. I've got too many screens. That's the problem. So, do you see it now?
Yeah, but not in presentation mode. I don't know about the others.
That's very strange. Okay. 1 second. Okay. Here it comes, I think. Now then. Yes?
No.
No.
You are still on the not on the presentation.
Not on the presentation, yeah.
Okay. I don't know what else to do now because we're in there. I think I'll just continue then in this. If you could see, it may look a bit small. I'm sorry. I'll try once more. Just once more. Now I can't get out of it. Just a minute and show. Okay, one more time. Now? No, sorry. Okay, I'll have to run through these quite quickly. We're short of time. But basically, I was saying that the tourism sector isn't so aware of the value and the volume of accessible tourism. And we have some figures from Europe. It's very difficult to get these figures actually because most of the national tourist boards don't collect figures on accessible tourism. But we can see in general, there are some trends that we should talk about. And this is that tourism numbers are rising. Tourism receipts have been growing over many years until this year. The global population is aging, and there's an increasing demand for inclusive experiences, as we might call them. So accessible tourism has been calculated a few years ago to generate 400 billion euros in revenues per year. And it's expected to grow 1% in the coming years. So it's 3% of the total EU GDP. It supports 9 million jobs, but only 9% of the European Union 28 countries, at the time this study was made, actually the tourism services, only 9% of them promote themselves as having accessible services for their visitors. So there's a huge gap between the demand and the supply. I'll show you the demand figures in a minute, but if there's an increase in support for accessible tourism, there will be many more enterprises, 1.2 million enterprises will need to provide accessible services to meet that demand. And if they are making these improvements, then the economic contribution of this sector will increase by 25%. And it could attract up to 75% more international travelers. So these studies carried out by Surrey University, GFK, a few years ago, were showing the huge potential of this sector. And you could say that the sector is losing money because of poor accessibility. This has actually been calculated as 142 billion euros lost each year and more than 3.4 million jobs. Now, it just shows that there's a very strong increase in the number of tourists, rising and rising.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you are still on the slide of background figures and trends.
Oh dear. Yeah, 1 second. I'll try something else. I'm moving forward through the slides, but you're not seeing them, all right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now we see ever rising numbers.
Okay, it's there. All right, sorry about that.
Not the presentation mode, but still it's
Yes.
visible.
Okay, I'll continue. I'll see if I can go forward from. Okay, I have to do it the old-fashioned way.
Right.
The global population is getting older. That's just showing you in different parts of the world. The top line is Europe, reaching above 30% already of people aged over 60. And we also see that there is a strong relationship between aging and disability or impairments. So this graph simply shows that as we get older, there will be more impairments in the population, and therefore people who still want to travel will experience more difficulty in traveling if we don't make the accessibility improvements. The seniors are 65% of the accessible tourism market, and 1 in 5 people in European Union are over 60. They want to travel and enjoy life, and they take actually 6 to 7 trips a year. They have the most discretionary income, and they're often doing active and youthful things, taking more overseas trips. Interestingly for this market is also that people with access requirements travel with, on average, 1.9 companions. So if you cater for somebody who has an access requirement, you will get more visitors, and they stay longer, they spend more on average, and they make more repeat visits. And again, they also travel throughout the year. So they're really very good customers to cater for because they have all these advantages for the business. We have some good statistics from the UK, from the United Kingdom, which has calculated that the total spending for accessible tourism is about 15.3 billion pounds. That's 52 billion Belarusian rubles per year. And it represents, in market terms, about 20% of the day visits. It represents 16% of the overnight trips, and but only about 2.2% of the inbound travel to the UK. So there is a lot of room for improvement, but it's showing that it's already a very significant market, not a niche market after all. This is just showing that the average spending, as I said before, by people with disabilities and other access requirements is about £740 per visit, and 660 if you look at the market as a whole. So people are spending more, and as we said, they're also staying longer. 11.6 nights on average for inbound tourists, 3.3 nights for the domestic, as opposed to 7.3 and 2.9. So all of these statistics you will be able to see in the presentations that we provide for you after this presentation here. We just mentioned before the Accessible Tourism Directory, pantu.org. We made this directory to do a mapping of where accessible services may be found. And we have an online a website with an interactive map, which presents suppliers with this badge when they are promoting accessible tourism, and each supplier has a profile page. So already today, suppliers in Belarus who want to promote themselves as an accessible tourism venue can promote themselves on the Pantu website. And we have about 1,000 suppliers all over the world. It says 900 on here, but they're still increasing. And INAT continues to provide this as a free service for the suppliers to show themselves as accessible tourism suppliers. So lastly, I'll just point out one very important message, which is that also with the UNWTO, we've helped to design some guidelines for tourism operators on reopening tourism for travelers with disabilities, taking into account how to provide safety without imposing unnecessary obstacles. And if you think about it, there are some potential conflicts between the demands of accessibility and the demands of health and safety. For example, if a bar or a restaurant, because of social distancing, is putting its chairs and tables out on the pavement, this may obstruct the pavement for people with disabilities. Just one example. But in this guideline, the UNWTO has published, we have a link to it from our news page. You will find, if you're a tourism provider, you can get some advice and some suggestions about how to take into account the needs of people with access requirements. So we will also mention a small advertisement for INAT that anyone can join. If you're an individual or a small enterprise, you can join INAT free of charge this year. The last 1.5 months of this year, we've done this as a special concession because of the hardship caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. So really, one last slide just on how to go forward in Belarus or anywhere else if you're a destination that wants to work on accessible tourism. The key factor is really from the top down. We need to have national and regional policies and action plans that are made in cooperation with tourism actors and stakeholders. So bringing together the national authorities and all the actors and stakeholders from top down, bottom up, to work on a national policy and plan. And you'll hear more about this from Portugal very shortly. We hope that you would engage with the international networks like INAT and then work particularly, first of all, on improving skills through training and education, because that brings everybody onto the same page, understanding the importance of accessibility and how to make accessible tourism services. It's important, of course, to improve the offer in the infrastructure and make inclusive activities. And the key to it all, as Anna Grazia said at the beginning, is to improve the communication and information both to the businesses and to the visitors, so that we will achieve our mission and hopefully your mission to enable people to enjoy accessible tourism, inclusive experiences for everyone, and leaving no one behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivor and Anna Grazia. INAD is actually the main and the most important organization on the international level in this field. So your experience and understanding of accessibility is an important point in tourism development worldwide, is really very important for us. Thank you for sharing this information. And we will continue with one more INAD representative, Emiliano De Ferrari, seconded to the president of INAD. And Emiliano will share the experience of Erasmus Plus projects coordinated by INAD as well, as far as I can understand. Thank you, Ivor. And Emiliano, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I will share my screen now. Let me see if you can see my presentation.
Yes, but we have two slides at the same
Now we have one, I guess.
Yes, now it's one.
Okay, great. So, well, I must say thank you very much, Natalia, because you gave me the possibility to look at things in perspectives, let's say, because I had the possibility to review a number of activities which were funded by the European Commission through Erasmus Plus and beyond in the field of training. And it was very interesting, at least for me, and so I hope it will be for you as well, because it gave me the possibility to see how training was conceived almost 20 years ago, what were the achievements, and what are the new, let's say, different strands in which training on accessibility has been promoted all over Europe and beyond. So we are a bit late. I hope I'll be fast enough and keep the pace, and so I don't have to talk about me, because well, I'm the second to the president of INAD, and I'm here in Brussels as a kind of lobbyist for accessible tourism for INAD. And you could see me before the pandemic in conferences, hopefully around buffet, getting fed with the finger food, and yes, but now it's not the case anymore, but it will soon be. But for the moment, my health was better off, I would say, as you can see. But let's go straight ahead into our topic. I guess you know about Erasmus Plus, but I'm also talking to the other people who are here with us. So basically, I would say that Erasmus Plus is the youth program to support education, training, youth, and sport in Europe. Erasmus Plus is the name of the last, let's say, program of the last 7 years. Before it was called differently, but I will go. I will talk about that in a slide. And the budget for it lasts until 2020. This is the last year of program Erasmus Plus as it is now, and the budget was of 14.7 billion euros. So it's a huge budget to support over 4 million students, teachers, workers, citizens to study, to train, and to gain experience abroad. The the specific issues that were tackled, that are tackled by Erasmus Plus, include reducing unemployment, especially among young people, promoting adult learning, encouraging young people to take part in European democracy, and supporting innovation, cooperation, reducing early school leaving, and promoting cooperation, etc. This is to give you the picture, but I wanted to make a bit of history, let's say, because before Erasmus Plus, we had other programs. We started having European programs in '95, and we had different framework program in which education and culture were involved. We had the Erasmus for, let's say, exchanges of students, but we had the Leonardo da Vinci program, which was basically the father of the new Erasmus Plus for training and partnership between teachers, students, and let's say, I see a cat at Ana Garcia's screen, and I'm happy that we have also cats listening to us. So to make a bit of history, I would like to talk about some of the first, let's say, European project funded by the Education and Culture DG to tackle accessible tourism. And I will start with this 2003 project called You for Me. It's not important only because it was my first European project in which I participated as an assistant, as a project assistant, but also because it was probably one of the first project in which the themes of accessible tourism were treated in a, let's say, kind of innovative way. Firstly, the needs of tourists with disabilities were identified, and young students of tourism had the possibility to build some modules. Basically, with the help of the teachers, they built training modules for accessible tourism, and that also was made with the help of a board, and a board that was made of young people with disabilities. And so this was very in line with the Nothing About Us Without Us motto of the accessibility movement. And it was one of the first projects which gave interesting outcome on accessible tourism module. I would also like to mention another project which came a bit later, 2005 and 2006, because just to show how at that time projects and training on accessibility was made to in a way that we could test new methodologies. The approach of Project Diada was testing a training methodology with the participation of professionals with disabilities. And for this project, many tourism itineraries were taken into account, and audits were made of those itineraries to find, how could they be accessible and the condition of their accessibility. And I would like also to mention in this slide, in this picture of this man, which was a friend and a colleague, which worked on Project Diada. Is called Mario. He was blind. He used wheelchair, but he was the best tourist guide I've ever met in Rome. The way he described the Trevi Fountain was the best description I got in my whole life. Going ahead, in the years 2009 to 2012, more projects were funded on training in accessibility, and in these years we made a kind of first step towards e-learning. So the idea was that the buzzword at the European Commission was making e-learning, so something which could be taught even online. And so I can mention these two projects. One is called EdCats, and it was one of the first online training offers in the field of accessible tourism when it was launched in 2011. The good point of this project is that of this course and of this material is that it is still online, and there is still people looking at this material after nine years and more. And the good, let's say, news is that the material has been also a bit updated during the years, which is actually important because material gets old quite easily because a lot of new challenges rise from time to time. And I don't have to mention the other project, which was T-Guide, because it was already mentioned by Anna Grazie. But this is to underline two different ways, let's say, two different strengths, we could say, of the way accessible tourist training was treated. One was which can be the example of EdCats, was a kind of general understanding, a general training on accessible tourism, and in the case of T-Guide, a specific training. So specific for some professionals, in this case, professional tourist guides, and also specific skills, which were skills how to guide people with learning difficulties and intellectual disabilities. But going to Erasmus Plus, we might say that there are some triggering events on, especially on policies, which made then the new wave, let's say, of funded projects on accessible tourism different, because they were made with those kind of things that happened between 2010 and 2013 in mind. In 2010, the European Commission published the communication Europe #1 tourist destination. And in the same year, also the Parliament doubled this communication with a study in which accessible tourism was viewed as one of the most important, let's say, features to develop tourism further in Europe. And in 2012-13, the Commission's preparatory action on tourism and accessibility for all led to a number of important studies and initiatives. Especially between 2013 and 15, there 3 important studies were commissioned, which was a study on the training and skills requirements of people working in the sector, on the economic impact and travel patterns in accessible tourism, and the supply of accessible tourism services in Europe. Some of those studies were also commissioned to INAT, which was by the time born and started already to do a lot of actions. From these studies, one of the biggest outcome was the desperate need of training in the sector. So that led to a new wave of Erasmus Plus funded project. And I will start with another project to which I'm very attached because I was part of it. But I will also show you why it can be seen as pivotal, because from 2014-15 we started to let's say look at how we could make innovative training, and for innovation we had in mind how to reach the person who are working in the sector, because the studies showed that there was an enormous need of knowledge directly in the people who were working in the sector, because we could make an investment for students, but we had to tackle the fact that most of people working in the sector didn't have any idea of how to cater for people with specific needs, and so we really needed to find ways to reach those people. So Arthur, you had the chance of piloting and experimenting in interesting tools like the blended learning, which was a learning made partly online and partly on class, with the aim of making a group of people working in the sector as facilitators of new training events, which were to be made in the second part of the project. So what happened in the second part of the project? We made the first ever massive open online course on accessible tourism, of which we are very proud. And it was great because it was made, let's say, in a way, so-called connectivist, so made basically without teachers, but with only with peers and facilitators reading the same material, but let's say going through it in a different way, depending on their own pace, on their own interest, etc. But actually, at the end, building more outcomes and sometimes even unexpected outcomes. So that was very important and innovative. And the other thing, it was an app for self-learning was experimented. So it was the beginning of the app period, which is now actually decreasing because apps are not that appealing as they were in the past. But the point is that this project gave the people who were interested in using this app the possibility for them to be trained by doing an assessment. So they got to know what the access statements were, how to take measures, and how to take accessibility information on venues, on tourist venues, and how to do it. This was made for training purposes, but then this app was also used for other projects. So it was actually kind of transferred to other initiatives. So this is quite interesting. I would mention another project which was called Elevator. Then if you want to get information on this project, you have all information you want to find in the website of INAT. There is a long list of funded projects, so you can go to accessibletourist.org. If you want to know which were the partners of the project, how many countries were involved in the development. But I will just stick to the contents and to, let's say, the innovation of those projects. In this project Elevator, it's interesting to mention because probably for the first time the partnership decided to give specific message and to concentrate to give specific messages to specific actors of the tourist chain. So we prepared basically the same set of information on accessible tourism, a kind of a guide for accessible tourism, but tailored to visitors, tailored to the industry, and tailored to the policymakers. So we kind of gave with a different narrative, with different mottos, but that was very important because at the time it was the beginning of the buzzword was narrative. The buzzword was elevator. The pitch that you could give in 2 minutes explain what was accessibility and what was accessible tourism. So this project was made to tackle this, especially. I could talk about Access Angels, which was another interesting project from 2017 and 2019. It is interesting because we start seeing how projects tackle specific, let's say, environment. In this case, we talk about rural tourism, but at the same time, we have also other recipients of training. We have talked about people working in the sector. We have talked about the students, but in this case, we talk about volunteers. Volunteers are part of the game. And so even volunteers should have been, let's say, taught accessibility and accessible tourism, and that in the context of rural tourism in rural areas. Again, we are coming, to 2020 slowly. I would mention this project and the next one because they tackled new, let's say, new needs. One of the needs was to train people working in the sector, tourist guides, but also other professionals, to understand their let's say their position in the chain of tourism. So being able to understand what they could offer to tourists with specific needs, but also how to know the rest of the chain to give a better service. But at the same time, NewsCut project had concentrated also to customize services. It is true, and in general, we talk about the importance of giving an accessible service to everyone, so a general service which is accessible to everyone. But we cannot, let's say, be blind to the fact that some services are made for person with specific needs, and so customized services are interesting to cover and interesting to teach to people who could then be use those customized services to make their customers happier. And I will not talk about Project TAD because we have the project manager of Project TAD who will talk after me. But I just mentioned that the program was the approach, the learning approach of this project was work-based. So there was some online training, but also there was a training on the let's say on the spot, on the job. And I would mention this program as up to date, one of the most complete programs you can find online for free. Okay, so this is in the website is available. The program is compliant with ECVET's requirement, and the online part is there for you to check. Okay, as it is the objective of Erasmus, because all content which is produced by Erasmus should be shared and open. I have to stop at a certain time, but I want you to give a look to this new, let's say, new frontiers. So projects which are running at the moment, and I will start with the frontier of mainstreaming. So we are interested in making those curricula of accessible tourism professionals, being the managers or being the frontline staff, become the mainstream in the offer of universities and in the offer of vocational education, in the vocational education. And this coming, and this is living project, which is called InTour, which is a knowledge alliance, being this is a bigger project than the ones we were talking about before, which were all strategic partnership. This is a knowledge alliance, so it involves the participation of different universities. And it has the project as the objective of development and co-create these two new, we could call it new professional profiles, but I would call it professional profiles 3.0. I mean, the quality profile of the tourist manager, which will be more inclusive, and the tourist frontline staff, which will become inclusive, tourist frontline staff. The other frontiers, this is the frontier of specialization. So I could mention Access It, which is another Erasmus Plus project, living project, and it specializes in rural areas. Again, on one side, we have general projects talking about accessible tourism in general, and on the other side, specialization. But we have also we have living some projects on innovation and technology. We in this project, which is called Games Without Barriers, which is made for especially for schools, is we tackle the gamification. So we actually experiment new ways of teaching accessible tourism through game-based digital tools. And there are very interesting frontiers in innovation and technology, and who knows that maybe in 1 year or two we will come back here talking about the use of artificial intelligence in training, which is something which is possible, which is already at stake, and maybe also in accessible tourism we will experiment that. But there is not only Erasmus Plus. There are also other ways of funding directly or indirectly training. I was talking about the 2013 and 15 studies that were funded, but also DG Grow in those years also funded a number of projects on accessible tourism to fostering accessible itineraries, entrepreneurship, management, and skills. But to foster accessible itineraries, entrepreneurship, and skills, it was extremely important to teach people working in the sector. So training was always part of any activity which had to do with accessibility. And so we can mention Europe Without Barriers, a project which made actually a tour operator, building a tour operator on accessible tourism itineraries. Across Lombard Lands, another project who developed accessible tourism itineraries along the way of the Lombards between Slovenia and Italy, and Project Attimo, who made training but built upon interesting, let's say, tourism itineraries between the sacred, being St. James Way, and profane, which was actually food and wine. Anna Grazia already mentioned Lebanon. So EU-funded project don't only fund the project things that happen in Europe, as you well know, but also elsewhere. So I would mention again Lebanon for All, which was an Euromed 3, AFCAR 3 program, which supported the development of accessible tourism through the development of accessibility guidelines, on-site assessments, and policy work that was in Lebanon. And I will finish with this. This is my last slide for your happiness, and it is about a very big project running now, which is about research and innovation. So it's not directly related to training, but we all know how training needs research to be done to then having something interesting and more and smarter to teach at the end. Ivor was mentioning before, and Anna Grazia as well, the fact that we don't have a lot of data on accessibility to work on and to support, let's say, our thesis, our research, etc., etc. And the Impact Tour is a project on cultural tourist destination, and is elaborating some methodology to estimate the impact of cultural tourism in EU. And is making the aim is making a new, let's say, new tools to combine data analytics, algorithms, and machine learning and artificial intelligence approach to improve those policies, and also trying to make tools to measure the impact of sustainability strategies, but also accessibility policies. And actually INAT is in this project also for that, just to push, let's say, the partnership to also gather data and find ways to gather data and analyze data on accessibility policies and Europeanization. And you can see in the picture all the pilot sites that are involved in this project and in this gathering of policies. And okay, that was not my last slide. This is my last slide, sorry. But are we talking about the new Erasmus program? We have other 7 years in front of us. It is too early to say how it will look like, especially because the pandemic and the need to make funds for this so-called new generation Europe, which someone calls recovery fund, this has slowed down the work for the details of the budget. Actually, the budget, which was astonishing last year because it was presented as 30 billion. So more than double the budget of the last Erasmus Plus had to be revised, but we might say that 24.6 billion for the new actions of Erasmus are big, because it's a big step forward. And to finish, I would say that the new challenges in accessible tourist training would be how to face the economic crisis after the pandemic, because this will affect everyone. This will affect also people with disabilities and communities. New travel behaviors of tourists with disabilities. We cannot think that in 6 months we will have the vaccine and travel habits will become the habits that we had before. It's not the case. And if it's going to change, it will change very, very slowly. So we need to let's say to analyze this. Climate change. We might say it's the elephant in the room, because climate change affects a lot of things that are happening right now. We have to understand how new IT tools can support tourism and tourist suppliers. And also we have to face and we have to see and study and make research on how innovative tools for tourist students can be implemented to share and acquire new knowledge in the field of accessible tourism. And that's really it.
Thank you, Emiliano, for a very detailed description of all INAD projects. It's great.
Not only INAD, some projects were not made by INAD, and in some project I was not involved.
But I participated in this massive online course you mentioned. It was really an interesting experience, and promoted among students this opportunity as well. So
I might say that this event, because actually it was a big event, led to a lot of new colleagues, friends, initiatives, and I hope we will have the chance in another way of repeating this big event, because these massive events creates like supernovas, a lot of other initiative and unpredicted initiatives.
Yeah, I think it was a great experience. Thank you very much. And we will give the floor to Vaida, who will also give us more information about the project, the Ability Advisor. Vaida, please, the floor is yours.
Could you see my presentation now? Sorry, could you see presentation?
Oh, yes, at the moment, okay. Yes.
So I will tell more detail about the project TAD, which was funded from Erasmus Plus program and which is already closed, but anyway, we are sharing its results and our feelings about it. First of all, I would like to tell that identifying the gap between the supply and the demand, we looked from the perspectives of a business. And we realized that accessible tourism could be a great opportunity for them. So thinking how to help tourism sector to become more accessible, we prepared Project TAD. And Panevėžys Labor Market Training Center was the initiator of this project and seeking to share good practices from the other countries. And this factor was very important while choosing partners. And the project was implemented with 4 partners, and one of them is INAD, whose representatives already talked to you today, and the Global Communication Agency in Italy, also another vocational education school engine in Italy, and Techminio, private non-profit training organization in Portugal. I would like to underline that from the beginning of the project, we conducted the research in some comprehensive way, covering the whole chain of the whole chain of tourism services. And our research was implemented in order to review the current supply and the needs of vocational training in partner countries. Also, we wanted to identify the ability of the companies who could accept the clients with special needs. And the answers of the representatives of tourism services sector allow to state us that today we need the consultant who could help them to arrange tourism services accessible for all. However, on the other hand, we identify that only a few training providers, I mean vocational training providers, offer training programs directly related to accessible tourism services. For example, in Lithuania, we don't have any program directly related to accessible services. So our next step, project step, was building a learning program and curriculum of ability advisor, and it was built on the basis of the results from the research. And at the moment, we already know that our developed learning program is successfully already integrated into the existing training programs in different countries related to tourism, such as social services, catering, accommodation services, and etc. I will show now a print screen of our learning program, which already Emiliano mentioned is online, and it is freely available for everyone. So this is the first view of the homepage of the learning program. As you can see, the course is prepared in 6 modules. Each module has video, text, and many additional references. The learner or a trainer can enter into each module by clicking on figures from 1 to 6. And also at the end of each module, the learners can check their knowledge. At the end, you will see, after passing the final quiz, the learners can download certificate. Successfully passing the final quiz, they may download the certificate and showing that they have completed the TAD e-learning course, and they can call themselves ability advisors. Now I would like very shortly to present each module, what material is presented in each of them, that you could see that we selected very useful and could be successfully integrated with already existing learning materials. So in the first module, we introduce the concept of tourism for all, and we introduce the background of tourism for all and the most significant experiences undertaken in this specific area. Also, analysis of a legislative framework at European and international level is provided in this module also. Module 2 examines the diversity of tourists with access requirements, including people with various types of disabilities, referring to the specific requirements and indicating ways to provide appropriate services products for each customer. And exactly module 3 explains in more detail how to serve with these clients, how to provide better quality services which could be accessible for all, and how to communicate to these customers. And also, we think we would like to underline that module 4 is also very important, as he explains how to ensure a consistent and appropriate level of services for every client. And a range of accessibility checks and audits must be carried out at different points in the whole service delivery chain, which refers to, according to us, to 4 main headings. So information provision, transfers and transportation, built environment and facilities, and services and activities at the venue. In the module 5, we underline the accessibility of the information, and we underline its importance of its correct provision. And this module is divided in 3 sections, where is explained basic principles why accessibility of information is so important and how to design this accessibility in different formats. And also where to find additional resources that learners could learn easily themselves how to prepare this information accessible to all. And the final module 6 about the ability of, it looks at its mission in supporting each enterprise in the tourism field and how he could help to develop their business and to make and improve the services that it could be accessible and inclusive in tourism market. In general, I would like to say that Project TAD and its results was it is a work of our international team, but it was quite challenging. As we had to mention and to underline a lot of things in a limited amount of training material. But I would mention the biggest challenge in presenting the project idea itself, as accessibility in tourism wasn't so clear for all web providers. For example, as regards our country, we even don't have a very proof translation of this term. It sounds not so good when we tell, and even when we organized multiple events to tell about the project and the results, when we invited participants, when we called to them, what are you talking about? What accessible tourism and why is it so important for us? So at the moment when the project is finished, I can state, tell you and share that this project has got a good, as an example, the mark and as example of good Erasmus projects practice. And also this year it was awarded as the highest quality project in that sector in Lithuania. And as I already said, we already know that now web providers and learners already are discovering the accessibility in tourism, and they are already developing new skills which can improve employment perspectives. And as regards tourism companies, we are sure that they can find useful information and up-to-date knowledge about the necessary changes that could easy and small that could make them able to become a part of a chain tourism services accessible to all. And here it is the link of to our project website and also to the learning program. I would like to underline that the learning program is in 4 languages. So it is English, Italian, Portuguese, and Lithuanian. And we invite to study it and to find that it is could be very easy integrated into existing learning programs in different countries. And also we encourage students to get certificate of ability advisor. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaida. It's really very interesting to join your project, and thank you for your experience. You know, in Belarus, it was also a problem to translate the term accessible tourism. It's also the problematic situation, and we usually use the word inclusive tourism because it's like in association with inclusive education, and people at least understand what we are talking about. So.
We better say tourism for all. It's better
because
if we say accessible tourism, accessible in Lithuanian translation, it means it has a bad meaning of bad behavior. So we had to find a solution how to tell about our project ideas.
Great. Thanks very much. Thank you for your experience. And now we will switch to Portugal, sunny country, far away from us, but we are really very happy that we have speakers from Portugal today here. And I would like to represent Helena Ribeiro, Turismo de Portugal, and Ana Garcia, the president of Accessible Portugal, that will tell us more about the Portuguese experience of accessible tourism development and support. So ladies, the floor is yours. Thank you that you are joining us today.
Okay, thank you, Natalia, and thank all the organizers of this webinar for inviting Tourism Portugal to share its experience. Now I'm sharing my presentation. Let me see if it works. Okay. Everybody seeing?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. So as my camera doesn't want to work with me, I had a picture of me in my presentation, so you can know who I am. I work in Tourism Portugal in the Tourist Offer and Resources Dynamization Department, and I'm going to talk about the implementation of our All for All program and also the training program of Turismo de Portugal. So picking up the last slide from Ivor's presentation, Portugal learned with the best practices in Europe and also with the INAT experience. So we developed national and regional politics and action plans, cooperating with the stakeholders from tourism and other entities. We engage also with international networks like INAT, and we are improving our training and education programs, and also promoting the improving of accessibility of our tourist offer, and also the communication and the information to the clients, to the tourists that have some kind of impairments. So we implemented the All for All program, Portuguese tourism. We began in 2016. We had a first phase until 2019, and then we began this year with another phase of this program. Unfortunately, the COVID didn't help the national tourism industry, neither the wide world tourism industry. So some of our plans are standing by. But I can talk about what we have already done and what we are aiming to do in the future. So the All for All program has also a national framework that is based in the National Tourism Strategy 2027, and also the Sustainable Tourism Plan 2023, that wishes to promote of the tourism, the accessible tourism, with an inclusive approach. Our strategy is focused on people. We are known by a warm welcome. It's not a marketing tool. Fortunately, it's true. We warm welcome everybody in our country. And also we have based on social and economic sustainability, and also aiming for the responsible recovery after the COVID. So the All for All program focus in the adaptation of the tourist offer, eliminating physical barriers and also communication barriers. We also focus in resource training. The tourist stakeholders have to know how to identify and respond to tourist specific needs. And the third area on the attracting demand, because we want to build our international renown of our tourist destination, and also to promote our accessible tourist offer. So this work last year was recognized by the UNWTO and also the ONCE Foundation that awarded us with the Accessible Tourism Destination, the first edition of this award. This, as I mentioned, was the recognition of the work that we have developed in these three areas, but gave us this responsibility to work better and much more to obtain an accessible tourism destination. So it's an award, but it is also a big responsibility. So one of our initiatives to adapt the tourist offer was to create an incentive support line to offer the possibility to our stakeholders to improve the accessibility of their services and equipments. We have supported 129 tourist projects with a total of 15.3 million euros. And these projects were based on interventions in the accessibility of beaches, of pedestrian trails, of hotels, and also restaurants, travel agencies, also adapted equipment. So we have now not all the offer that we wanted to have, but a big part, and it's growing every month, every year. So we are very glad that this support funding line was able to help our tourist stakeholders to improve the accessibility. And also the training area. We have in Tourism Portugal, we have tourism schools that offer courses for the future tourist professionals. We also produced best practices guides on hotels, on active tourism, in accessible communication in museums, palaces, and monuments. And we try to spread all the best practices that are showing in our country, and some of them were supported by our funding line. So we are working in several areas, and we show that the training part is very important. So in our hotel and tourism schools network, we have initial training that is a training unit about accessible and inclusive tourism that has 25 hours. And in the last year, between 19 and 20, we had 956 students in these schools that had this training unit. We also have the continuous training for professionals that divide this in training program with 55 hours and modular training with 25 hours. And we are aiming also to 2021 a training plan that is dedicated to tourist stakeholders and also to public entities to show the importance of the accessible tourism market, and also how to welcome people with impairments in their services and with equipments. So we have some best practices and enterprises and entities that already are working in the accessible tourism market, and we have a wide scope of offer. We have cultural equipments, we have accessible beaches, we have active tourism, also activities for people with impairments. We have also the hotel and the accommodation sector that has already best practices also. And we have travel agencies that are specialists in this market segment. And we have, for instance, Tommy for All, that is a tourist information equipment that is already adapted to the people with impairment. And we also have a channel on our Visit Portugal that is dedicated to accessible tourism information that tells us what is the accessibility on several areas of Portugal, including the public transport, and also includes the accessible tourist itineraries on our heritage of UNESCO. With this work that we have developed, we have created also a path for 2023. We know already that this year is a bit lost because COVID didn't allow to make all the initiatives that we are aiming to do this year, but nevertheless 21 will be a better year, and we hope. So we are aiming for a new framework, a legal framework for accommodation classification that allows new requirements on accessibility for 4- and 5-star hotels. We are also investing in accessibility in our financial programs. That is, the accessibility will qualify the project, and we will have also the ISO in accessible tourism that will be implemented in the first trimester of 21. We think that will give a boost also for the tourist stakeholders to improve the accessibility and certification also. We have a project that calls Future Lab Hotels that has a technology approach, and it's making a training tool for accommodation. We are also planning an executive online training with 25 hours with testimonials and best practices to show what Portugal has in this accessible tourism market. And we are also making webinars, cycle of webinars all for all. We began the last month. We had another one yesterday, and we'll have another one in January. It's one per month, and we have experts, international and national experts, and we are showing also the best practices. And in 21, we will have also new best practices guides that will include all the new ISO on accessible tourism recommendations. Standing by, because the COVID didn't allow it, we have the Accessible Festivals program that will distinguish all the accessible festivals, and also the National Award for Accessibility that wants to award the best accessibility projects in tourism in several areas. And also the All for All calendar with a collaborative calendar of events with the private and public entities. But these ones are standing by. Other contributions towards an accessible destination. We also have in Portugal a national mission structure to promote accessibility. We also have a national strategy for disabled people inclusion that extends from 2020 to 2025. And we have a working group to develop the national strategy for accessibility and inclusion in museums and monuments also. And in the regional scale, we have regional tourism programs for accessibility, 3 in the south part of Portugal, Algarve, and also in Alentejo, at the area of the city of Évora, and also all the center region that has 100 municipalities that are working also for the accessible tourism market. And we have the Tour for All Accessible Portugal, that is a platform with accessible tourism information, but Ana Garcia can better talk about this. This was a project that Tourism Portugal also supported and promotes among the tourist stakeholders. So this is my last slide, and I now give the floor to Ana Garcia. And thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you.
Well, I'm very happy to participate in this webinar. We are a little late, but I want to congratulate very warmly Natalia for her hard persistence.
Thank you.
Well, my message is in the context of this participation comes to reinforce everything that has been done and said, to reinforce that the beginning of qualifying a destination as accessible for all is through education, awarenesses, and training. So your university is on the right side to be the booster of this long path. This is really the beginning of this path that will bring quality and safety to tourist destinations. It's very important to put all together accessibility and quality and safety on the destinations. Portugal has, in fact, invested heavily in this area, whose results are visible at a short but also a medium term, because it's when you invest on training, the results are not yet ready. Tourism has the power to bring together the interests of sending and receiving markets. That's very important. And to bring together different types of people with different and specific functionalities, cultures, habits, and tastes. Concerning our association, well, we believe that networking and collaboration from all are crucial, and we are delighted to work closely with the National Tourism Authority, Turismo de Portugal, developing several guides, manuals, and training sessions. The projects that Helena told about regional projects in the center of Portugal with more than 100, with 100 municipalities and the center of Alentejo and all the Algarve. We are the promoters of this project together with public entities that have the power to give the floor to several stakeholders, public stakeholders, namely in the nature field and also in the culture field. The path is long, and it is necessary to have persistence and assertiveness. Elena and I, well, we take more than 10 years working together, and we know that all that is related to accessible tourism, it's hard, but we always win and we achieve our goals. It's very important. Growth will only occur with the inputs of supply and the demand together and in an articulated way. I'm very happy to start this path with Belarusia, and thank you very much and the best wishes in this challenge.
Oh, thank you, Anna. Thank you, Helena. You know, I feel envious about your experience. We have a long way to go to reach such positive results and support programs, because for us it's just like I don't know, long-term events and long-term goals. And I will now give the floor to me myself to share a little bit about our experience, what we have at the moment. Let me start sharing the screen. So I would like to tell you a bit more about experience of Belarusian State University in accessible tourism training and research, and our main results, what we achieved during the last 5 years, I would say. A few words about accessible tourism development in general in Belarus, because not so many information is known about it. We also understand that accessible tourism is not only for people with disabilities, but for all other groups of tourists that have some access needs, some like elderly, the families with young children, and so on and so forth. But already was mentioned today, there is not so much data in general about all these groups of people. So what we have some information about the potential demand in Belarus for accessible tourism. It's very, very like potential, not real, but we have the population of 9.5 million people in our country, and 6% of the population has some kind of disability. And also we have quite an old population with the level of people over 60 years, around 20% of the whole population, even more, like almost like in Europe. So we're having this generation problems too. And 25 of adults are obese in our country. So in general, we can understand that 1/3 of the population has some accessibility needs. And for them, of course, more accessible tourism services will be more comfortable. According to our legislation, we have the constitution that fixes the right for relaxation for each and every person in Belarus. We have some acts on social protection of persons with disabilities, but now it's being updated. Maybe tourism will be more in focus in the new version, but I'm not sure. We also have state programs on tourism development and on social protection, but in general, accessibility is not in focus. Accessibility in tourism is not in focus in these programs, and not so much finances are supporting this program realization. It means that there is not so much effect on real accessibility improvements in tourism sphere. Although we have quite a lot of architectural standards and documents that regulate accessibility of buildings, but at the moment, of course, it's not enough, and there is not so many regulations, in particular in tourism sphere, which is very specific. Belarus ratified the convention of UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which was already mentioned today. We ratified it in 2016. And after that, our government developed a national action plan for the implementation of the convention. Unfortunately, tourism is mentioned in only one small task, that something should be really made to create conditions for further development of accessible tourism. But at the same time, at the moment, we don't see really much changes in this field. We don't have any strategy of accessible tourism development and so on and so forth. So it's just like the declaration, but not so much action in place. We face different challenges in accessible tourism in Belarus. Of course, they are, I think a lot of them are the same as you faced maybe some years ago. The first problem is information about accessible tourism services. It is very little or no information at all about accessible tourism sites on our main tourism websites, like different sites promoting tourism for foreigners as well. So the second challenge we face is infrastructure accessibility, because unfortunately we don't have so many sites which are reachable by everyone. According to some data we have, only 1.5% of all hotel rooms in Minsk are accessible. And the same situation with health resorts in Belarus, although we have some specialized health resorts for people with access needs. But what is positive about this data is that the numbers are increasing slowly, but they are increasing because accessibility is step by step inserted in some standards for certification, for example, of health resorts, and they have to be accessible if they wish to be having more stars or something like that. So it's step by step improving situation. The numbers of accessible rooms are growing. But we don't have any specialized travel agencies at the moment. There are some of them that try to do some excursions or some tours, but usually it's more like a social responsibility than business. And the only official data we have is the list of travel agencies, farmstead and hotels that provide services for people with disabilities. This list was created a year ago by our Ministry of Sports and Tourism. And you see the most of these tourism providers are hotels that have some adapted rooms for people with access needs. And in most of cases, there are not so many proposals, for example, excursions or some other specific services for this group of tourists. And if we consider the elements of infrastructure, in most of these places that are included in the list, there are ramps and parking, but only 11% have accessible toilets, which means that not really many of these tourism providers in the list are really accessible, because if you don't have accessible toilets, your parking is for nothing, actually. We are more or less developing the accessibility of our transport. Our national airport is really quite accessible. We checked it several times, and it works really good. We also have several accessible railways, trains, and so on. And we also have some projects dedicated to accessible tourism. One project I would like to mention, which is the most important and the biggest in the sphere, it was financed by EU and finalized last year, Volozhin Without Barriers. Volozhin is the region near Minsk, very close to the city, and it's famous for tourism services and nature and so on. So it attracts tourists, and the idea of the project was to develop a small accessible destination where a person can have not just some separate accessible services, but normal accessible weekend with all services included. So during this project, the partners developed several accessible rural tourism proposals. So people could go on a carriage, an accessible carriage or accessible boat, and stay at the farm stay. Also, they developed an accessible eco-trail, which is the first in Belarus with all this tactile signs and boards and information. It's really a good example, and the first example in Belarus, which is accessible for all and friendly for each visitor, which is for free, and people can come there anytime they want. And also there was a small hostel, accessible hostel developed within this project. But there are more problems with challenges we face, is that the tourism providers in Belarus, according to our surveys, understand that accessibility makes them more attractive, but they are not ready to invest. And they say that the key problems, key barriers for them are lack of finances, lack of information about the requirements of needs with people with access needs, and lack of barrier-free environment. And it's really not so easy to change these problems, to change the situation with these barriers quickly. It demands quite a lot of time. And the fourth challenge we face is training. Yes, actually training is the key. At the moment, we have sometimes initiatives from different non-governmental organizations that organize some training, some seminars, some workshops, but usually they are not on a systematic basis, which makes them not so effective. It's only like one time or several times, and that's it. And our university here is the example of a systematic type of training for future tourism professionals. A few words about our university. Belarusian State University is the main university in our country. It's almost 100 years old. We have 27 faculties and more than almost 30,000 students. Our faculty particularly has 13 departments, and our department is called International Tourism Department. We are more than 20 years old, and we have developed different bachelor and master programs in tourism management and event management at the moment. Accessible tourism is included in two main activities, in training and in research. In training, we have a course inserted in the bachelor program and one course at the master level. And in research, of course, we have different activities such as student research laboratory, individual research, and cooperation with different NGOs and public institutions. To give you like a short example of these courses, the first course, Accessible Tourism Practice and Solutions, was developed 5 years ago already almost. It was my idea and I'm happy I managed to include it in the program. It's included in the bachelor program, and it's the first such discipline at the level of higher education in Belarus. And we have already more than 200 students that went through this course, not so much as in Portugal, but still we're working on it. We have lots of practical training within the course, not only theoretic basis, but we visit tourism sites. We try to understand the needs of each and every group of potential visitors. We test infrastructure, and students are also making their own accessibility assessments of tourism sites, which makes them, they understand what's really different point of view, and they understand the accessibility from the inside. For master's degree, we have this the course Making Events Accessible for All. It's a very young course, only second year. This year we have this course, and not so many master degree students went through this course, but it's very important as well, because Belarus, before this political crisis, was really interested in inviting different events here, sport events. So accessibility became one of key issues of organizing these international competitions here. And also we invite, I invite lots of people who can share their own experience in event organization, not only like theoretical basis, but also speakers from practice. Student Research Laboratory is, we have quite a lot of them at the university in different spheres, and our laboratory is concentrated on different innovative technologies. I'm the manager of this laboratory, and we are involving students now actively in tourism research, accessible tourism research. Each year we involve around 10 to 15 students in this topic, and thanks to our activities, we are acknowledged as one of the best in our university for active research. What students usually do, they create, for example, videos about tourism for all. We participate in annual accessibility week organized by disability NGOs in Belarus. And we also, of course, organize and participate in various events, like conferences, roundtables, discussions, and so on. You can see this, some pictures from our activities showing the ways we involve students. According to research areas, I would say that we don't have, unfortunately, we don't have much finances for any kind of research in the tourism sphere as well. Our university supports small grants only, and what we managed to do during these 5 years, I would say, we are involved usually in accessibility assessment of tourism sites in partnership with the Office for the Rights of People with Disabilities, which is an NGO we cooperate closely. We try to analyze the readiness of Belarusian tourism market to provide accessibility by online survey and interviews. We try to analyze the economic impact of accessible tourism, and also we try to analyze this to information about tourism and cultural events also. For example, like I would just show you a short example of this independent monitoring of accessibility, where we are usually involved and our students are volunteering. In general, we can say that around 50% of all tourist sites we visit have basic level of accessibility. Unfortunately, this percentage is not really very high. That's why it's difficult to talk about accessible tourism in Belarus now, because it's just in the beginning. And as a result, I would like to maybe point out some main achievements of our university as a training center for accessible tourism. At first, we of course do quite a lot in raising awareness of various tourism stakeholders about accessibility and inclusion. We invite researchers, we invite representatives of governmental institutions and tourism providers to our events. which spreads the idea of accessibility and inclusion among them. Of course, we do a lot for training for future specialists in tourism in event management through our courses. I think it's really good way to make them think about accessibility, because they will become managers in the hotel or a travel agency, and they already know what's accessibility and why it is important. Also, we develop different proposals on improvement of tourism legislation in our country as a university, because we have these research results. We can formulate some needs and of tourism providers and propose changes to the legislation. We work in tight cooperation with key disability NGOs in Belarus, which is, I think, really good. And also, as a result, now our Minister of Sports and Tourism already understood that we are an important stakeholder in this sphere, and we have the research data. And if they organize something dedicated to accessible tourism, which happens at least once a year, they usually address us. They asked us for some advice. They ask us to be the speakers, to share our research results and best practices and experiences. So it's already a step on the way to develop accessible tourism. So thank you for attention, and stop sharing my screen. And now I think we have a small piece of time for questions and answers, because we didn't fit our schedule very good today. But I would think maybe our listeners, our participants have some questions to our speakers today, because it's a unique experience and unique opportunity to ask Inat, great people, just online, something you need to know. If you...
Can I have a question?
Yes, sure, Mart.
Hello, I'm Mart Raymond. I'm from Tallinn University, but currently locating in Minsk. So actually I have a question. You said that you are one of the most successful research groups in BCU, your inclusive tourist research groups.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So is it popular among students, or why you're so, or is it just that you are so enthusiastic and so can you describe how to get students excited about this?
I would say it's mainly because I'm enthusiastic. It's not so easy to stimulate students to start any kind of research, no matter what the topic is really. But I propose them some activities. I try to invite someone who is interested, and usually from my own practice in terms of the student research laboratory, I announce some idea, I invite everybody who wants, and usually there is at least like 6, 7, 10 people who are interested in the topic. If they like the first participation in the research, they want more and more and more, for example, like that.
So if Western Europe, we're talking about that, new generation cares more. They care about climate change. They care about animals. They care about disabled people, and which generation like 40 plus or it doesn't really care. So do you feel something similar also in Belarus?
Not really, not yet. I think.
Not yet. So you feel
not
that
yet.
you're a little bit behind.
Maybe.
Okay, so when you're doing good job, it's just catching up. Maybe.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mart. Maybe someone else has some more questions. We have quite a lot of students today online listening to us who are going through the course of accessible tourism development. Mm-hmm. Students are always shy about the questions.
May I ask one question? If I don't step into, are you, I would like to know how many disabled students you have in your university, if there are, and which is the situation of employment for people with disabilities in Belarus, because I think that people with disabilities employed in the tourism sector could be very useful on a peer-to-peer possibility to help customers.
You are right, Anna. Grazie. Thank you very much for your question. According to the students' situation, we have like unique examples, I would say, that enter universities. I mean, people who can be easily understood as students with disabilities. Sometimes, like we have people who have problems with hearing, for example. We have some students like that, but not so many, unfortunately. So I think it's the problem of the system itself. It's not so easy to enter university if you have some kind of disability, and the buildings itself are not accessible, unfortunately, not all of them. We have some buildings that are more or less okay, and the others are old enough, they don't have enough accessible services. And I would say that our professors, lecturers are not well aware with the different teaching techniques. If, for example, you will have a student who has some mental issues or who has some hearing problems, we are not prepared as well. It's a problem, but it's a systematic problem on the level of general level of education in Belarus, unfortunately. And with the employment situation in tourism, we also have really lots of problems. I mean, in general, with the employment for people with disabilities, we have around, if I'm not mistaken, around 30% of people with disabilities who are employed, and the rest are not employed. They have this pension and not more. And in tourism, there are only several examples of big hotel chains. In Minsk, we have Marriott, we have Hilton, and one of them has the program for supporting people with disabilities, and they invite employees each year, so everybody knows they do it. And of course, for the staff and for understanding of the needs of people with disabilities, it's really important to change their point of view, to understand the difference, how to welcome such visitors, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, only some examples. And I know that this year or last year we have the first bar, coffee bar, where all employees have disabilities, like that. But it's not systematic like practice everywhere, unfortunately. So we don't have questions anymore.
I think we have more than one coffee bar, or I have seen several in Minsk with inclusive coffee bars.
Maybe.
Yeah, so
as far as I know, they have two of them, like two places for inclusive barista, they call it.
Inclusive barista, yeah, at least two, maybe three. At least I've been in two.
But they are the one owner, two places, but one owner. But it's a great example. I think maybe it will start spreading. We have one more question.
Yes, please, if it's possible.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Hello, nice to meet you all. And I'd like to ask a question to Emiliano. It was extremely interesting for me. And could you please describe a bit more detailed, how did you train guides to provide accessible services?
Well, okay. First of all, I didn't train tourist guides in the project we are mentioning, which is what I was mentioning, which was T-Guide, and for that probably Ivor will know more about the project because he was directly involved in it. What I can say, in any case, I can give you an answer anyway, because in my experience, I have been working for many years when I was living in Italy before moving to Brussels for the organizations of free guided tours in Rome. It was organized for at least 15 years in a row, and organized and funded by the municipality of Rome. And it was a service which comprised the use of an accessible minivan and a guided tour to people with different disabilities, meaning that the tour guides had the chance to meet people in wheelchairs, but also people with some mental illness, etc., etc. So it was since the beginning very important, and we found very important that those guides could be prepared to have an effective, let's say, guiding for those people. I must admit that we basically, since I mean, I worked for these tours since 2005, and at the beginning it was just like learning on the job for us. Okay. And but naturally we started training the tour guides. Naturally there are completely different let's say set of things that you have to know depending on the disability of a person, and there are things that you have to know if a person have got mobility problems using wheelchairs or not, but different things. And sometimes the problem is that, especially if you have heterogeneous groups, how can you be effective with people with different disabilities who need different way of talking, etc., etc. But it was, what I can say is that it was possible, and all people participating to this guided tours were so happy, and they wanted to come back. But then for the technical side, maybe Ivor can say more about the T-Guide project and the training path that was proposed to these professional guides, naturally. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually,
You're
it's exactly that what I was asking about, because I'm a guide, and I used to face such issues, and actually we have no any training in Belarus for professional guides how to guide people with disabilities, and I think your experience could be very, very useful for us. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'll just follow up then with an answer to that question, because Ludmila, I think one of the best things about tourist guides is they're so dedicated, and I mean, I'm generalizing, of course, but they are really excellent students, because they are very deeply involved in the culture and the history, and they have languages, they have many talents, and of course they have to be good communicators. And this is the basis for being a good tourist guide, of course. And all that we were doing, really, I suppose it's not rocket science. All we are doing really is feeding them with some additional information about the needs of these particular groups of people and how you can best meet their requirements. So we have a good, and Emiliano referred to this, we have a good guideline from the Elevator project for tourist guides, and you can download this document and read about a whole range of things that are useful for tourist guides. So I'd recommend that you find that, and we can help you find that. So really the basic message is that the professionalism of tourist guides is a very big step. It's very important that we, and also in Western Europe now, we're focusing very much on supporting these professionals. Because there are many, you can go to any city now and you can have free guided tours, but who is guiding you and what do they really know? And I think it's important to maintain the standards that the professional tourist guides keep, and to improve those standards with the dimension of tourism for all. So thanks for raising that point, and good luck.
Thank you, Ivor. Thank you very much. Yeah, I would be grateful if it's possible to share the link that you mentioned. Thank you very much.
In the website of INAT, if you we're talking about Elevator project. If you go and check projects, you will find also Elevator, and one of the outcomes of the project was just an handbook for tourist guiding. So this is quite general, and it gives you a lot of information.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you for your question, Ludmila, and for information. I think we don't have any more questions at the moment. So I would like to finalize our fruitful webinar. And I would like to thank you all for participating, for joining, for sharing your best practices and your experience. I do hope this it is just the first step in our cooperation, and sooner or later we will be able to see each other offline and continue talking, continue cooperating, and finding some new areas of cooperation in the field of accessible tourism. So thank you very much for this time, for your knowledge and for your experience, and I hope to see you soon in other different projects.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Hope to see you soon.
See you soon all.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Natalia. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. We had a long way to go.
Okay, but you have to start.
Yes, thank you.